When we started working with the humans and we came to their planet, it was very interesting to see that they celebrated everything. Everything had its own day, its own week, its own month. It was strange that they would celebrate something as silly as a child's toy that was kind of like a spring but would simply go downstairs. They had days set aside for certain confections that they eat during their breakfast meal. They had days for just about everything. They even had holidays to celebrate certain leaders who just simply did their jobs, but it was during a time of strife. And some even to celebrate one or two of their local heroes. However, there was one day that was universal, one day that everyone in the entire world knew was to be set aside in remembrance. This day they called Memorial Day. We have something similar. In fact, every sentient species, every single planet has a day set aside for this, and the humans are no different. Now, for most, there is no pageantry. It is simply a remembrance day as we would go and visit the markers for each of our fallen, those usually in our family and those we knew that protected our kin, and we would thank them for what they have done. The humans put on a bit more pageantry, but the feeling is the same. I sat and watched as one of these towns, as they call it, had a strange way of doing things. Apparently, many of these towns, or as they call villages, would have these different ceremonies for each of them. In this particular town, they brought everyone to the town green, as they called it, a small area that was kept manicured specifically for items like this. As I looked around, I could see that some of the older ones, and some of the even younger ones, but not as many, wore uniforms or these strange hats that showed that they had served their own clan, their own, I believe they call it country, with distinction. But they were not there to honor themselves or be honored. Though you wouldn't know that, as I watched many of these humans walk up and give a similar greeting as they say shaking hands. For anyone listening, it is not what you think. They do not wave their hands in each other's faces. No, no, no. They grip each other's hands and firmly hold down and raise up and down one time, usually with a stiff jerk, as to symbolize a welcoming gesture. I do not understand this. But then they would be mostly smiling. And yes, I know human smiles are a bit disturbing to most, as usually baring someone's teeth is a sign of a threat. However, humans are weird that way, and they smiled and they joked and carried on until it was time that a voice came over their primitive voice enhancement system and got everyone's attention. And then they looked over to this one pole that was sticking up. And with that, I suddenly heard something out on the side. Group attention! And with that, everyone in a uniform snapped into one position. They were all locked with their arms to their sides, standing straight, looking at the pole itself. And as those who were by the pole began to unravel a strange piece of cloth, I didn't understand what was going on, as I heard, "Present Holmes!" And with that, the cloth was raised slowly, all the way to the top, and then it was lowered halfway down. I was informed this was a sign to show that they had lost those that they had fought with. I looked over at those in uniform, and I saw that they were all old, young, it didn't matter, unblinking, unmoving, holding their hands up in the similar fashion. I looked up and I raised my highest limb, and I tried to emulate this as best I could, but our physiology does not allow us to hold that position for very long. And then you heard, "Order, Holmes!" And they all dropped that same salute, as they call it, as one. I tried to emulate this as well. And then a strange melody was heard. Something sedimentary, something low, something that showed a strange feeling of remorse. It was with that we heard other people speak, and then before I knew it, they were marching down to a cemetery close by, where they again did another set of honors to those that had fallen. This time they had their flags following, which I found that was raised on the pole. And then they had other vehicles with flashing lights following as well. But during this, there was almost no talking at all. There was those on the side taking their photographs with some sort of primitive devices. And yet everyone was very, very quiet. That was until we started hearing someone start chanting. It was a strange chant. And then others joined in, basically reciprocating what he was saying, but saying it much louder. And eventually, as we sat there, and I watched these humans, these strange, primate-looking creatures, do their whole ceremony, I was amazed at how disciplined even the youngest were at the remembrance and the honor of the old, those that were no longer even there to appreciate what was being said and what was being done in their name. When it was over, everyone walked back, and again, everyone talked a bit. Then there was some speeches on a stage, and then everyone separated. It was strange. I thought that was it. It was a bit more pageantry, but about as long as you would think that most remembrance ceremonies would go. And I simply figured that those that I was staying with would simply allow me to go back to my own business or continue on with their lessons in human society. But no. They simply told me to get ready. Ready for what? Oh, everyone's coming. Excuse me? Everyone is arriving? Why is everyone arriving? They all looked at me and grinned, almost as though they expected some sort of strange thing to happen. I didn't understand the expression, but they began to pull things out of their storage device, their cold storage devices as well. They lit a strange fire inside a metal compartment. I wanted to know what was going on, and all I got in return was, "It's Memorial Day." What is this? They all seemed to get together. Within the next 2 hours, the entire back of the domicile was filled with the old, the young, everyone playing and laughing and joking. Some of them throwing these strange orbs around, these strange oblong-looking orbs. Other ones used a strange mitt on their hand to throw other balls around to each other. That was mostly the young, as the old sat there and just talked, and I listened. I listened to the old ones talk about those that were no longer at the table. I listened to the young ones talk about every once in a while how they remember a little bit of this, that, and the other person. And then, before things got any further, just as the food began to come off of their strange firebox, they did something odd. They raised their glasses and saluted cooked bread. I think my translator is malfunctioning. But they all raised their glasses. I did the same, though I cannot drink the same ethyl alcohol that they can, and there was a lot of malted ethyl alcohol. I did raise my glass, and they said that they were saluting those that were no longer at that table, and I then realized what they were doing. Unlike everyone else, every other sentient species that does remember the fallen, these do not simply remember it with one simple ceremony that they're obliged to go to, but instead it is a joyous occasion to remember the fond memories of those that are no longer there, those that did protect them but can no longer do so. And with this, I held my head in a bit of shame. As my species did not know this, they will not know the sacrifices, nor do they celebrate the lives of those that have fallen. This human ceremony, this human tradition, this human that is here has shown me something that I had never seen before. And just like my human homestay had mentioned about those that were no longer at the table, I am grateful to them. High Council, this is the end of my report on the human traditions. I do beg that you take this under advisement and copy what the humans have done and celebrate the lives of those that have fallen, not just mourn them. And with that, Galatac simply walked out of the council chamber, leaving the entire council chamber at complete awe at what they were seeing with all the videos playing as Galatac was speaking. One image stuck out among all others. It was a picture of a human projectile weapon stuck into the ground. On top of it was its protective covering from its head, and from the handle hung a pair of metal, what the humans called dog tags. Next to it knelt down a human, saying goodbye to his friend. The council vote was unanimous, and within a year a date was chosen, and it would be the first time in written memory that a young species recently inducted into the galactic community at large would bring something accepted to the entire galactic community at large as now a staple. Though the days change from planet to planet and region to region, thanks to the humans, everyone now sees that it is more than just a quick and simple remembrance, but truly a celebration. And now no one holds their head or has pain in their heart when they say those words around the universe. Happy Memorial Day, everybody.